Hello, and welcome to another PharmaLedger webinar. My name is Martin Hunt, and I'm the Global Marketing Manager for Onorach Clinical, and I'm a member of the PharmaLedger Culture and Adoption team, who are responsible for bringing you this series of webinars, which are aimed at communicating and disseminating PharmaLedger's activities and progress amongst its members and the general public. This webinar will focus on the development of a digital trust ecosystem, and will go into more detail in regards to the technical aspects and architecture used, specifically in relation to blockchain and OpenDSU. Previous webinars have explored individual use cases and their progress to date, so this is the perfect opportunity to do a deep dive and determine how it will all work together from a technological perspective. The webinars plan to run for about 1 hour and will consist of a presentation followed by a live Q&A with speakers. We'll be using Slido to capture your questions during the webinar, so please scan the Slido QR code that you'll see displayed on your screen and use it to post any questions that you may have, and we'll answer these at the end of the presentation. In order to keep to the 1 hour that we have for this webinar, we'll not be starting with the usual overview of PharmaLedger. So if you are new to us, then please visit the PharmaLedger website or our YouTube channel, where you'll be able to familiarize yourself with the overall aims of the project. The webinar today will be available on PharmaLedger's YouTube channel shortly after the event. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's speakers, Marco Cuomo from Novartis and Sinica Alboaie from Romsoft. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, for this nice introduction. My name is Marco Cuomo. I'm with Novartis, and my role at Novartis is innovation architect. So I'm part of a group called Applied Technology Innovation. And for the last 5 years, I'm working on blockchain and finding ways how to use blockchain in the enterprise environment. And at the same time, I have also the role as a co-lead for PharmaLedger as an architect there together with Sinica. And so now, Sinica, it's up to you.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Sinica Alboaie. I'm in the PharmaLedger Research Project, representing the public partners and Romsoft as co-leader of the work package 3. I'm also the founder of Axiologic Research, a small technology-oriented company aiming to drive the OpenDSU open source ecosystem after the PharmaLedger project. As you know, OpenDSU is a result of another research project called Private Sky, that I lead in the past. PharmaLedger contributed substantially to increase the maturity of this open source code and by adding new features and documentation. So Marco, we can start our presentation.
Cool. So let's start with the title, which we called Evolution from Blockchain-Enabled Healthcare to Digital Trust Ecosystem. When we started with PharmaLedger a couple of years ago, we used the term blockchain-enabled healthcare because the main goal was that we want to build the blockchain infrastructure for the healthcare industry. Over the time, we realized we are doing much more. We are building an ecosystem, basically a digital trust ecosystem. So we get more and more aware of that and realizing that the blockchain technology alone is not the only thing we need. We need to build an ecosystem. The technology is one part of it. You will see later in the slide, in the presentation, the governance and other elements are as important or as important as the technology itself. Before we go deeper into the digital trust ecosystem, let's have the bigger view, the bigger vision behind it. And this is what we call digital sovereignty. This was a term coming up the last 2 years in Europe, where Europe realized that there is a huge dependency on other big tech companies in a lot of areas, which makes us vulnerable. So when we have this digital sovereignty in mind, what we think here is that you are in control of your data and your identity and your application. So this is the big idea behind it. So when we talk about digital sovereignty, we break that down in 3 areas. One is self-sovereign identities. This is about your identity. Here we have already solutions in place or ideas in place. Next level is data self-sovereignty. You want to be in control of your data. And here we talk about data sharing units. You will see that later in more details, which are encrypted data vaults or client-side encryption are keywords around that. And then the last one, which I think it's something special from our side, is what we call self-sovereign application. At the end, you need access to your data and to your identities or through your identities. And this is what we understand under digital sovereignty. And of course, you have solutions today out, which are working pretty good. But we think in the future, you will have what we call killer application, maybe in the health environment or health ecosystem or the financial ecosystem or in the gaming industry. So we will see where these are coming. So not everywhere you need that, but I think there are areas where you really want to have it. So digital sovereignty is that you have control over your own digital destiny. That is basically how you can summarize. And when I say you, I not only mean individuals, I also mean organization or whole countries. So this is the full package around it. So digital sovereignty means you want to be in control of your destiny and not depending on big tech companies or other central authorities. So having said that, so this is what we have in mind as a bigger vision. So now let's dig a little bit deeper in what we understand under the digital trust ecosystem. On this slide, you can see a definition from Gartner, which I guess it's compromising, it's explaining it in a very nice way. I think it's important to say that an ecosystem is the collaborators or participants or the actors are independent. So they are not together in one group or something, they are independent. We, and this is the difference now with the digital trust, we say we want to build the trust established on cryptographical blockchain or with blockchain. The organization of a digital trust ecosystem can be along an industry, a geography, incentive, or a service, or an application, or whatever. There is no limits to that. And of course, we think there are common best practices to build that. There is not one digital trust ecosystem for the healthcare. There will be maybe more, but let's say with PharmaLedger, we are accelerating the healthcare DTE. But there are others. There are finance DTE, there are from government some DTEs, and there are more. They are overlapping, and this is good because we want to leverage services or ideas from other DTEs into the PharmaLedger one or into the healthcare DTE. So this is basically what we understand under digital trust ecosystem. I quickly summarize it. So it's an independent group of actors, definition from Gartner, and actors can be enterprises, people, things, everything who can do something in a DTE or in an ecosystem, which they share a standard digital platform to achieve mutual beneficial purpose. I think that is a very good definition, and this is what we understand, and this is the aim and the goal what we want to achieve with PharmaLedger. So if we go a little bit deeper in the digital trust ecosystem, which we foresee for PharmaLedger, you see on this slide a kind of a layered architecture. On top of it, you have what we call the DTE applications along some use cases, for example, electronic product information or finished goods traceability. There are many, many others coming or hopefully coming. They are using reusable artifacts and standards from this platform so that the application can really focus on their business use case. And of course, these artifacts are using, let's say, a middleware, which we call here OpenDSU, which Sinica in a bit will explain in more detail. And this OpenDSU is a middleware, which is then interacting with the blockchain or hierarchical as we call it, hierarchical ledgers and blockchain. So this is how we, PharmaLedger, sees, let's say, the structure of a digital trust ecosystem for the healthcare industry from a PharmaLedger point of view. But we are aware there are many others, or there will be many others with their own structure, maybe more simple, more complex, The goal is that we have our structure and that we are open and interoperable with other solutions, other structures, other DTEs. And there could be interfaces, there could be whatever we need to work together, because at the end, for the end user, we want to create a nice user experience so that there is no limitation because of technology. So that's the vision. Reality, we'll see where we get. So having said that, let's now dig a little bit deeper in the PharmaLedger technology stack, which Sinica will now explain on the next slide.
Okay, so PharmaLedger architecture at the first sight could look like any other architecture, just a stack of layers, and this is very hard the difference is hard to explain in visually. However, as Marco explained at the start of the PharmaLedger project, we promised that we will build a blockchain platform capable of embracing many use cases for the whole health industry. In the last year of the project, we clearly said that we try to build a blockchain platform that achieve real decentralizations on multiple levels, from technology control, deployment, and especially data control or data self-sovereignty. So we can present the PharmaLedger as a decentralized platform or as a digital trust ecosystem, DTE. The main focus is on decentralization and on the ecosystem culture that should be embedded in the technical design of the PharmaLedger architecture. Many other existing blockchain architectures suffers from a problem that we label in our discussions as the gateway problem. Usually you get a standard web server hosted by a single organization, and this server stays between the users of the system and the blockchain. This powerful node tends to control everything. Therefore, the blockchain fails to play its main role in bringing decentralization and better security. So you could easily get like something like just a show that you are using the blockchain, but actually the control is centralized. So by forgetting about blockchain and using web technologies in such ways, this approach creates this creates bottlenecks and centralizations from the start. We have explicitly designed OpenDSU, which is the base of the PharmaLedger platform, in such a way that avoids such bad architecture patterns. Besides security, our approach avoids also vendor lock-in by design. As Marco started to say, PharmaLedger architecture is based on the core concept of this hierarchical blockchain. Our thinking is that you need to separate blockchains for each use case and to organize these blockchains in a naming system that we call BDNS, Blockchain Domain Naming System. We realized that there can't be any technology and ways of deploying this technology for such a big ecosystem where potentially hundreds of use cases could appear. So you need to break the system in smaller parts that are still capable to share data between them, and the use case applications should be able to interoperate. So OpenDSU is like a layer 2 blockchain technology focused on off-chain data storage, off-chain data integrity, and cryptographic control of data sharing. So this is the essence of the presentation of the OpenDSU. We also support Hyperledger Fabric and Quorum as layer 1 blockchain technology. So we can do what we call usually the anchoring using Hyperledger Fabric and especially Quorum in the most advanced use case API. So we have built a decentralized architecture that serves the core interest of the health industry, HCPs, pharma companies, hospitals, distributors, patients. But I repeat myself, in the core values, we are embedding the open source approach, possibility to avoid vendor lock-ins, disintermediations, and digital sovereignty. With this in mind, let's proceed with the next slide. In this slide, we will use this opportunity to communicate a bit about our vision and hopes on the key values and the role of the PharmaLedger Association. Our vision on the PharmaLedger Association is that it should play the role of the brand umbrella for multiple use cases. So we have the DTE, but you need a brand, you need a common way of looking at all use cases. However, in our vision, the use cases should be as independent or autonomous as possible because they will have different stakeholders, different constraints, and we should maintain the decentralization spirit as much as possible. But the PharmaLedger Association should facilitate the creation of new use cases, promote the benefits to new members, help them to do marketing, to attract members, and so on. This is a hard work to do, an important work that PharmaLedger Association as a brand umbrella could take. So basically, the main goal of the PharmaLedger Association should be the stability and the growth of the DTE, the PharmaLedger DTE. Additionally, of course, PharmaLedger should and will organize the quality management system as a service for use cases. We're already starting this with EPI use case. And of course, if it will happen, it should be a facilitator or a mediator between conflicting interests in such a complex and environment. With time, of course, PharmaLedger Association could take the role of discovering synergies and similarities, common points between use cases, but it's important to mention that it should do this without imposing arbitrary decisions. Yeah. Basically, from this, I would like to express or to clearly state what the PharmaLedger Association should not become. So we haven't created in PharmaLedger a decentralized architecture, software architecture. However, we have to ensure that the governance rules we plan to implement will not deny the benefits of the technical architecture. We believe that a decentralized and democratic approach will help growth and the good collaboration inside the DTE. The centralized alternatives are prone to creating artificial limitations, fights for power, and could easily become a source of conflicts between members. Therefore, the PharmaLedger Association should not be in our vision something like a software house. So they don't directly develop. They don't have the PharmaLedger Association will not have the right DNA, yeah, the right speed to really become a software developer or a cloud provider. This should be externalized or should be decentralized as much as possible to the members and not becoming such a thing. And a common theme, a common concern in similar ecosystems like the one that are governed by the Linux Foundation is the idea of having a kingsmaker in this kind of organization. So a kingsmaker is an organization that is deciding what use cases should be adopted or not, for example. This is not really a good approach, and the successful communities in the, let's say, Linux Foundation ecosystem are explicitly avoiding this kind of approach. The communities for each project should compete, should be free to choose to take their life, to evolve their features and so on, without having a big control, a big stick over them from the PharmaLedger Association. So our thinking about PharmaLedger Association is going in these directions of offering an example of an ecosystem that is decentralized, is capable to put the interest of so many different competitive companies, big companies, to align this interest in a way that shows an example for other industries, for other big organizations. So we could have this kind of big brands, yeah, like PharmaLedger Association, hopefully will become a big brand, but to use these brands for centralizing, for controlling the industry, to controlling the technology, this will be a bad thing in the end. And blockchains offers exactly the tools, the culture, the approach to prevent such things. Marco, please continue with the next slide.
Thank you, Sinica. And I can just agree, this blockchain has a huge potential to change our society, to change the way we collaborate, to change the way how people how people with power can be controlled. So, but let's go now back a little bit. Let's go back now a little bit into the technology. You heard often now we use OpenDSU, and later Sinica will go a bit deeper in that technology. So let me give you here an overview, because for us OpenDSU is the central technology to enable the digital trust ecosystem, to enable the potential of the PharmaLedger in an ecosystem for an enterprise world. So first of all, we use OpenDSU in PharmaLedger because we think, or I will tell you why we use it, but that's not limiting PharmaLedger. We, of course, also support use cases which are not using this technology, but they will not benefit of these, what the framework like OpenDSU is offering. But still, everything is possible. So, OpenDSU, why OpenDSU? You see here in the slide a picture and some bullet points. It's a busy slide, so let me walk you through it. First of all, OpenDSU is a generic approach for all use cases. So you may have heard the term, it's a framework, it's a middleware, that's both true. It just means that the use case, the business developer, they can focus on solving the business solution, and they not have to reinvent all the little technical details for each and every use case and running into the same mistake or problems. So they can use a framework where they can pick all the solved problems on a technical layer and can really focus on the business use case. So that is why we call it a generic approach. With OpenDSU, it's a framework. It is also middleware to help that. So with OpenDSU comes a couple of things so we have in PharmaLedger the philosophy that we say we do not store the data directly on the blockchain. In fact, we put the data outside the blockchain, which we call off-chain storage, and we put a reference into the blockchain. This means the data are inheriting basically the properties of the blockchain, but are not stored directly on the blockchain. There are several reasons for it: performance, scalability, security, lots of these things. Another thing is, if you want to access a blockchain, you need an application that's normally called the digital wallet. And this wallet mainly is handling the keys to access the data and the blockchain, etc. With OpenDSU, we give here, let's say, a generic approach, a standard approach, a simplified approach. Each blockchain solution needs a digital wallet. This can be, of course, packaged in a mobile app. It's not that you see it, oh, this is an ugly wallet. But at the end, the features of a wallet, in this case, handling the keys and all these things around, has to be somehow solved. OpenDSU is giving that like a boilerplate for a business developer out of the box. As typical for a framework, we are offering reusability, interoperability between the use cases, and data portability. So if you use OpenDSU in the PharmaLedger environment, and the different use cases are using that. So there is out of the box, basically, you have interoperability and data portability between the use cases, and you can reuse features from one use case for the other. So that makes a very nice and seamless integration in the different use cases, in this case for the healthcare industry. And in addition, we are preserving data confidentiality and privacy. This is something, for example, when you put your data in plain text on the blockchain, you won't have it. With OpenDSU, we really bring a full-fledged solution around that. So these are the main benefits why we always propagate the OpenDSU framework, and also using that as the foundation for the digital trust ecosystem. Of course, we fully use the technology, the blockchain technology, to use that potential. And as Sinica mentioned before, to achieve or to use that in our ecosystem, this decentralized approach to break the centralized authorities, the middleman, and these kind of things. Let me go back to this slide here again. When you look here at the picture, this is a very simplified, but I think a good overview of how the OpenDSU and blockchain in PharmaLedger works. I walk you quickly through from left to right. On the left side, you see the users. That could be a company or end users using, let's say, the data which are stored on the blockchain or referenced through the blockchain in a so-called DSU storage. So when you look at the left side, you see here what we call an execution environment, a digital wallet. Think about it. This is your mobile app. This is your application. It could be a web application. An application, you will not see a difference, but under the hood, it acts like a digital wallet, which has the keys to read on the ledger the right data, and bringing the data from the off-chain storage in your execution environment and decrypting it so that you can see the data. The data are, remember, we preserve data confidentiality and privacy, is never in plain text visible, only in your execution environment. So wherever the data is stored or wherever the data is in motion, you never will see the data, only you will only see it in an encrypted version. So this data storage is anchored in the ledger, as we said, as you can see in the middle of the picture, and the ledger itself can be anchored in a root blockchain to benefit, as Sinica mentioned before, from the blockchain DNS system and other elements. But I think this is just now here the overview to give you kind of a view how the digital trust ecosystem works with OpenDSU and the underlying blockchain technology. That's basically why we use the OpenDSU. And now I'm handing over to Sinica for a few more words.
OpenDSU it's a new technology, and is not coming from big brands, big companies, but it's coming from research projects. And therefore, a common question that we get about OpenDSU they compare, or they ask what's the benefits of the OpenDSU compared with the private transactions or transactions managers, So the classical solutions based on Hyperledger Fabric and Quorum have some concepts, similar concepts of transactions managers or private transactions, that basically say that each blockchain node has some additional database associated. And this associated database is storing the data of the private transactions. So basically, these private transactions are stored in an off-chain system, typically a database. And the entity that is controlling this storage is called the transaction manager. This transaction manager is anchoring the data in the blockchain. So imagine a hash that is stored on chain. But these transaction managers are just basically some databases that are doing this role. First, this concept of private transaction have a serious drawback because each enterprise blockchain invented similar but not identical concepts. So if you work for a Quorum solution, this will not be easily ported to Hyperledger or to other blockchains. OpenDSU tries to be agnostic about the layer 1, about the blockchain. So being a layer 2 technology, similar basically with the transactions managers, is focused on fully decoupling from the details of the actual implementation of the blockchain. So basically, we have something like a transaction manager, but for any blockchain. Yeah. Additionally, OpenDSU and transaction managers have capability for storing private keys or other secrets, symmetric keys and other things. So they are similar from this point of view. However, OpenDSU as OpenDSU solutions for the key management are independent on any particular type of hardware security module. Here we have a concept we call enclave, like this an abstraction, an interface in which we can put different many different implementations. So for each company, we could adapt their existing HSM, hardware security module. We can use cloud HSMs, trusted environments, in other environments, and so on. So this is one advantage. We tried even on this layer to be agnostic to the actual technology. So this is a big differentiator compared with the typical transactions managers. This comes very handy and useful in cases like software as a service or blockchain as a service, in which the security model of the members, the stakeholders in such use cases require that they should have total control of their data. So they don't want to have a powerful intermediary, a middleman that can spy on all this data. So even the sharing of this private data with the hosting provider, with the infrastructure manager, could leak too much data. Of course, this infrastructure provider acting as a middleman, probably, at least in Europe, will prefer to avoid GDPR responsibilities for patient data or to have complex legal agreements with the businesses that it's serving. So OpenDSU follows basically the principle of data minimizations by offering this concept of wallets that are also implemented as DSUs, but will not insist on this, and offering a stronger key management, a decentralized key management solution from the design. Private transactions, especially transaction managers, don't really address these concerns. They are designed for big companies that can install by themselves a node, yes, and this additional layer 2 transaction manager. The transaction managers approach really doesn't address the concerns of the patients, of small companies in the supply chain, and so on. with OpenDSU, we have this. I repeat myself, but it's important to have it clearly said. We have this digital wallets as a core concept for all blockchain solutions that we advise that can be built.
Let's come to our last slide, which I think is summarizing the vision we have from an end user or user experience, which we call the OpenDSU smart wallets. As you could see in our digital trust ecosystem, there are a lot of application use cases covered. There are other digital trust ecosystems with other use cases, and at the end you will have for each of these use cases a separate app, a separate application handling that. Would it be not nice that you have something which is basically bringing everything together, like a super app, or in this case a super dynamic app, or a portable interoperable digital wallet? And when you use OpenDSU, you basically have that already integrated in the framework. You can easily bring the different use cases, application functionalities into one smart wallet. And it's not only that you see all these applications in one wallet as separate, but in the same, let's say, app or application or website. No, it's also the idea that these different use cases are interoperable. That means they exchange data or events or messages. For example, you could think about it that the e-consent wallet, where you give your consent, let's say for a surgery or a clinical trial, can be used with the clinical trial wallet. So these two applications are then speaking to each other and exchanging the necessary information without that you have to interfere. Or you could also think about it that you have, let's say, something around the electronic product information and the finished good traceability. And so you would have then an application which is more than just the simple applications. And you can even go further and saying, you could use this technology and integrate it in bigger applications, or other application can pick some of these features here. So the ideas are endless, and you will create a new platform for that. So it would be customizable to the needs for the different users or roles or even company, would be very flexible to combine the stuff. So that would create a seamless user experience, let's say for let's say healthcare applications combined with some financial applications or other elements which are interested here. So this is our vision from a user experience point of view, with the underlying technology and benefits we have presented before. So you have the full potential of the blockchain. Underneath it, you have the full potential of a digital trust ecosystem in a simple way, aggregated in a nice digital smart wallet. And again, we say, if you do that, if you use the OpenDSU middleware, it would be super easy to do it. But of course, we are also open for other technologies to integrate. It takes just a bit more effort, but still possible. So for us could it be that the digital wallets are in future the next big application platform? Maybe for certain type of application. Don't forget, there is a lot of other type of application where you don't need or have or use let's say the blockchain ideas and protocols to do that. But for the others, that could be really a new platform where you can add features to your wallet and make sure they integrate, they talk to each other, which is not the case today. So this is a little bit our vision. And with that, we conclude our webinar, and I hand over back to Martin for the Q&A session. Thank you.
Super. Well, thank you very much, Marco and Sinica, for your presentation. As they said, we're now going to open the live Q&A. So hopefully you've been posting questions that you'd like to ask of Marco and Sinica in Slido. So what we'll do is we'll take those questions in the order that they received the most votes. So if we have a look at the questions, we can get the first one asked to Marco and Sinica. So I think they will appear on the screen any second. Okay, so here we go. So the first question that we'll take, it all sounds very straightforward. How far away are we from mainstream adoption of blockchain in pharma corporations? And what are the main showstoppers right now? So Marco, Sinica, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I can take this one. So adoption is a big topic, of course, as we're introducing a new technology. So we have one use case, which is electronic product information, which we plan to go what we call in a productive pilot, which is a qualified environment. Means it is under the regulation of the regulatory requirements, and this is planned by end of year, beginning of next year, a productive pilot in a few countries. At the moment, we're looking into Belgium, maybe Canada, and Singapore. But that's a productive pilot. And it is in parallel to the existing processes. If this pilot is working well, I think then in the longer term, we will then switch more and more to this new technology. So the adaptation is not only that we have to implement the technology in the pharma companies in this use case or wherever, it also needs change in the regulatory requirements, means regulatory have to be changed. For example, in the use case of electronic product information, moving away from paper-based leaflets to completely digital leaflets. And so this adoption will take time. I think, or we think, it will take a few years to go there, maybe to completely go from what we have today to this technology will take maybe 3 years to 5 years to completely switch. Hope that is answering the question.
Marco, do you think that the regulatory hurdle is the main showstopper right now?
I wouldn't say it's a showstopper. It's just it's something which we have to deal with, and it is also something which not stopping us to come in parallel with something. But to use the full potential, the regulatory have to or need to change over time. And I think there are activities. The world is moving on, and normally everything what has to do with law and regulatory, they take a bit longer, but they will come, they will follow. And at the moment, for the long-term view, I think, yes, the regulatory is one of the topics we have to look, but it's also within the different organizations where you have to explain why we are using a technology like blockchain and not a central database, etc. That is also something where we have to change the mindset of the people to understand why we do a more complex technology than what we have today. They have to understand the benefits of decentralization and what comes with that.
Super, thank you. I think this next question is sort of, we've talked a little bit about the pharma companies, but how and when do you intend to onboard pharma companies, CDMOs and app developers who are currently not a member of the consortium?
I can also take that one, Sinica. So what we have now is we have the PharmaLedger as a consortium, and this will end this year. After the PharmaLedger consortium ends, we will have a successor organization, an association called PharmaLedger Association. This is a kind of an umbrella, and each use case will then deal or figure out what is the best approach for the use case. Do you need to be a member of the PharmaLedger organization or not? Or what is the approach here to onboard? For the use case, which is most advanced, the electronic product information, we have at the moment decided, because this is a hybrid network, means all patients or everyone who wants to read can use it. Everyone who wants to write on it, which are normally pharma companies with the leaflet, they have to be a member of the organization, that has to be onboarded. So for that use case, the pharma companies need to be a member of the PharmaLedger Association, but the user who are reading from it, they don't have to be members. And other use cases, they will have other approaches to deal with it. So for the concrete situation now, you need to be a member of the PharmaLedger Association in the future to actively participate for the one use case we have in which is the most advanced. For other use cases, that can look different. For example, finished good traceability, I can think about it that they have a different approach. That's not decided yet.
Super, thank you. Question, I think, for Sinica. I understand that this is a decentralized ledger. How is the infrastructure deployed and maintained? Is it peer-to-peer? Sinica, do you want to pick this one up?
Yes, sure. So the answer is yes. We tried from the beginning to be a real blockchain. So it's peer-to-peer. Each pharma company involved in API, that is most advanced use case, is hosting a node, has to follow the internal rules. The challenges that are new for them are also interesting and with a lot of learning. But yes, it's peer-to-peer. We deploy the system in different clusters, in different clouds, and we connect these blockchain nodes together in a single network. Now, for the other use cases, there's a flexibility with OpenDSU. It could be more centralized. You could have some sort of hosting providers, hosting what we call these blockchain domains for small companies, even for a patient. You could have a small node, virtual node, and so on. So the system is flexible and adaptable for each case, but the architecture does not impose any centralization. This is very important for us. So if you compare with other solutions that exist, that have some sort of gateway, some sort of intermediary, we refused this approach from the beginning. So this is central for us.
Answer this next question maybe. Do you believe the cultural adoption will be more challenging than the technical implementation?
It's more challenging because the technical implementation is clear now. We have the things with the culture and all those other aspects I mentioned a bit in the presentation. I think this is, yeah, I personally believe, maybe Marco, how do you believe? What do you believe about this?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the technology is something which you can go, let's say, more in a rational approach. You can take it. The culture change needs also a lot of changing in your mindset, emotional. It touches emotions. You learned things the last 20 years, and now you have to change. And this is not only for technical people. I mean, this is also for technical people, but also for the business people. And often what I experience is when we talk about blockchain, technical people, they always challenge saying, yeah, but we can do it today in this and this way. That is correct. But blockchain introduces an idea of this decentralization. And this is something which is another approach than we normally have, especially in big organizations where you have a centralized database or centralized this. So this is a change from the technical people. And then also from the business side, you have also to explain the business why they have, what is the benefit in going this direction. So definitely the cultural adoption is, I think, the harder and the longer approach or thing we have to go for than the technology, or in comparison with the technology.
Super. Our next question is, what are the standards applied for supply chain use cases? Marco, can you pick this one up?
Can you, sorry? Can you repeat?
What are the standards? Yeah, what are the standards applied for supply chain use cases?
I have to admit, I'm not a supply chain expert here, but I know that in the finished good traceability, this is one of the use cases. They use this, I'm not exactly sure how the abbreviation is, this EPCIS or something like that. So a standard which is coming from GS1, Global Standard 1, and they apply that for the electronic product information. We use the 2D matrix. This is the barcode on the box you have on the medicine package. So we use that. So these are things we use from GS1. So in electronic product information, it's a 2D matrix. In the finished good traceability, there is this process with the defined events and messages from GS1, which is used.
Super. Thank you. Our next question is, are clinical trials and health data based on OpenDSU? Sinica, can you take this one?
Yes, all use cases in PharmaLedger are using OpenDSU. Now, this health data, I don't think we store so much data for the clinical trials, if I remember correctly, the details of the clinical trials. But I think maybe this is for the other projects. I think OpenDSU is ideal. When I started to think about this kind of use cases, the data of the patient was very, very important on my radar. So a way of sharing this data in a way that doesn't require intermediaries, offers cryptographic control on the edge of the system and so on. So OpenDSU is basically designed for this kind of data. But yes, the answer is yes, is using OpenDSU.
Super. Thank you. Our next question, can you describe how PharmaLedger will transform to a decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO? Marco?
Yeah. The DAO is, I think, is the essence of blockchain at the end. It explains how, or it shows how you can distribute work and also distribute decisions or in a decentralized way. At the moment, this is our long-term view, the DAO, to have a decentralized autonomous organization where it makes sense. So for the moment, we establish, let's say, a more classic approach where we say we create an association, which then is, let's say, governing the decisions, etc. This association is not controlled by one or two companies. It's what we call an ecosystem-based association. So everyone in the ecosystem, well, everyone or some of them can be members on the governance board. And this is the first step because we think it's understandable how decisions are made, how the work is distributed. Then in a long or mid and long term, we would like to move that in a more DAO. How this looks in the details, it's not clear yet. What I can see is we spoke before about cultural changes. These are the things which are very difficult to understand and to implement in the existing, let's say, ecosystem we have today, which are more hierarchically oriented. And so we have to break that in little steps. But the goal is, let's say, mid-long term, to come to something which what we call a DAO. Maybe, Sinica, you have some thoughts on that.
Maybe this is will not be a big DAO for all PharmaLedger association, but for new use cases, depending also on the funding scheme. So I could imagine like different blockchain projects in search for real problems to solve. So in PharmaLedger association, there are serious use cases, but so if some projects, on blockchain projects, from the cryptocurrency, from NFT tokens, from other areas will come to PharmaLedger Association and propose, let's say, a collaboration, I think this is the most probable way of having DAOs at the level of the PharmaLedger Association, if you ask me. Now, because for other use cases like EPI, everything is clear. It's decentralized a bit by their nature, and we already have from the PharmaLedger research project the start. But for many other use cases, I could imagine easily having DAOs, having new ways of funding this, and in a more innovative, let's say, for the pharma industry way.
Super, thank you. Our next question is, when can we expect to see the transition to the PharmaLedger Association? Marco, do you want to pick this one up?
Yeah, this is basically planned. I mean, PharmaLedger Consortium is what we have today. It's a project which ends this year, and the PharmaLedger Association basically as a successor starts end year. So we are right now in setting up the PharmaLedger Association, and there will be from the PharmaLedger Consortium what we call a second endorsement, which is basically finalizing the bylaws. So how is the governance board set? How is the membership fees planned, and a lot of these details to run the PharmaLedger Association. This will be endorsed by the PharmaLedger Consortium, and with that together, there will be then also a transfer to the PharmaLedger Association. Basically, PharmaLedger Consortium ends this year, and PharmaLedger Association starts 1st of January. The preparation is done right now, so we have created the association, we are setting it up, we're building the QMS system, lots of other details which a legal entity needs are right now in the making. So the goal is 1st of January, the PharmaLedger Association is fully ready, and all the knowledge and IPs, etc., are transferred from PharmaLedger Consortium to the PLA, PharmaLedger Association, by beginning next year.
Will companies who join PharmaLedger have their own DSU, or one DSU will be shared by different companies? So, Marco, would you answer that question, please?
Sure. Just let me repeat. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, good. Sure. In this case, every pharma company or every participant on the blockchain node, they will have their own data sharing units where they store their, let's say in the EPI use case, their own data. So this is the decentralized approach. So it's not that there's one big thing and everyone is using it. Theoretically possible, but in the first use case we do electronic product information, the pharma companies, they will store their e-leaflet in their own data sharing units in their own environment.
Super. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, that's perfect. Our next question is, we have developed a blockchain-based solution for advanced therapies and precision medicine. How do we get involved with OpenDSU? So Sinica, could you pick this one up, please?
Hello, so just contact me, and I think you'll have my address, or we can present you a bit how you can contribute to the OpenDSU. You can enroll you in the Slack channels and so on. So just contact me, it's enough.
I'm sorry, Sinica, but I think this is the technical onboarding when the people, but I think here is more the, if they want to be part of PharmaLedger, that would be my understanding. So here, the best approach is, I guess, to get in contact with the PharmaLedger consortium, the co-leads. In this case, it's Dan Fritz and Xenia from UPM. if it's more a general question. So as Sinica said, if it's a technical thing, that's the right way. If
yeah,
it's more about...
It's about OpenDSU, it's better.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. If it's OpenDSU, then of course go to Sinica.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, you can find all the contact details as well on the PharmaLedger website as well. So excellent, thank you for that. Our next question is, a wallet is needed which can complicate things from an end user perspective. Have you considered working with QR codes? Marco?
Yeah, I can start, and maybe Sinica can then go a little bit more in detail. So the point is, you need a wallet to access the blockchain. Yes, that's the technical term. But for example, for the use case we are working at, you build a mobile app. It's just a mobile app where the different features are presented to you. You don't see the underlying technology. It's a normal mobile app. In case you don't want to download the mobile app or something like that, and this is what my interpretation is of the question of the QR code is pointing to a URL link where you then can work directly without installing something on your machine or on your device. This is also available. We call it, for one use case we built that, we call that a lightweight app. And this is also available. Or maybe Sinica, you are much closer to that. Maybe you can give a bit more technical details to that.
So anytime you are using cryptography, in a way or another, you have a wallet. This, as Marco, I think, suggested, is like you could have two types of wallets. Okay? Have edge wallets, and then you have full data sovereignty. You control the keys fully, or you can use an intermediary, a server, or a cloud wallet, a cloud agent that is storing and managing for you this case, because this is more convenient for sure in some cases. So we have already showed in the API use case, in other use cases, demonstrated how you can do all these things. So yeah, we are not enforcing a solution. It's just we are from from an idealistic point of view, we are trying to put in front decentralization as much as possible. But sometimes it's not. Yeah, if it's not possible, it's not possible. It's fine.
Super. Thank you, Sinica. Okay, our next question. Nice that there is a real decentralization approach here. Can you contrast your approach to the controlling role of the Ethereum Foundation for contrast? Marco, do you want to kick us off with this one?
You're on mute, Marco.
So, yeah, just maybe as a little bit broader, we have a technology which gives you the possibility to do the things decentralized. That is, blockchain is one of these technology. But, and I think this is suggested with this question here, is how make you sure that also the governance of this technology or the use cases on top of it is also decentralized, because there is an easy trap that you create a decentralized technology, but on top of it you build then a kind of an organization which is then still the middleman or a gateway on the decision level. Our goal in PharmaLedger was always, and this is the technology OpenDSU supports, that is to have everything as decentralized as possible. So with the use cases now going on, we create an association which then tries to govern this in a decentralized way. At the beginning, it will be not perfect. It will be some compromises. Our long-term view would be, and here again, OpenDSU supports that, building a decentralized autonomous organization using in one or the other way tokens for voting or other ways. But we're not yet there. We do one step after the other. I hope that answers your question.
Super, thanks very much, Marco. And if we'll carry on to the next one, actually, Marco, do companies need to pay for DSU if they use PharmaLedger's solution? And do we have any estimated costs at this stage? So do either of you want to pick that up?
Yeah, I can. So first of all, OpenDSU is open source. I mean, it's freely available. So the technology is open source. The solution which is built, in this case, PharmaLedger or EPI, is a solution where you want to maintain it and you drive new features, etc. And here, everything will be open source too, because this is one of our principles. We don't want to create dependencies. But we also say in one or the other way, we need somehow a funding for, let's say, at least for the next 1 or 2 years. And here we have the ideas, which are still under discussion, that if pharma companies want to use the PharmaLedger use cases, they have to join the association and paying a membership fee. But this is still under discussion, and it is also still a temporary solution for now, and let's see how that develops. But again, the software, OpenDSU, and what PharmaLedger is producing is open source. There is no costs with that. But if you want to use this solution, the implementation, for now, we are thinking about the membership for pharma companies, and we have to see how that develops.
Super, thank you. I think that answers our next question, which is around the technology that we're using. So it's open source. Is there anything else you'd add to that? Maybe what drove the decision to select open source?
Maybe Sinica?
I don't know if I understood the question. So it's not on the list, the question. So again, could you ask again? Sorry.
Yeah, so we've established that the technology we're using is open source. Yes. I just wondered if you had anything to add to that, maybe in terms of why open source was chosen.
Well, we are funded by the European Union from the public partners. This is one thing, but I think for a big industry trying to build a digital trust ecosystem, so the topic of this discussion, I think that's totally normal, and everybody building this kind of systems is doing open source systems, or any closed systems will just diminish the trust and will create, bad blood, let's say, between members. You don't know what is hidden behind the licensing and all the other things. So I think it's like no brain in a way. I don't know. I think the intention is to create really a community and an ecosystem that will not be locked by some vendors and things like this. That's maybe Marco. Do you have other better?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely right, Sinica. It goes in this direction, or is exactly that. I mean, think about it. We want to build an infrastructure for an industry, a healthcare industry. And if someone owns that code, even in the best intention for now, you don't know what happens in the future. And so we want, from the beginning, having here no dependency. So that's one reason for open source. A second one is, with blockchain, we promise to be decentralized. We promise that there is no gateway, and that you can verify that or look into it. You can look at the source code. We have nothing to hide. You can look into that stuff. And this is one of the reasons, or this is one of the principles we said, we want to make sure that when we build something as a foundation for an industry, a whole, in this case, healthcare industry, we want to make sure that we not have some dependencies to a software vendor. That is extremely important. So at least at the beginning, we can, not at least, especially at the beginning, we have to look that this is open source and available for everyone. So we don't want any barriers or hurdles blocking that. So that's exactly, basically what Sinica already said.
Super, thank you, Marco. Our next question, I think it's asking sort of what organizations are involved and how will these organizations support future DSU development?
Maybe Sinica, or difficult question.
So basically, depending on on how fast and how important will be these use cases, I think there will be all the PharmaLedger companies that are involved in use cases will support and will be in the ecosystem. Now I can talk about myself. I'm already involved in another project, research project. I'm also involved supporting PharmaLedger Association. So my company will be there. My company is called Axiologic Research, and I think also Romsoft. I'm working very closely with them. They will support for other things. And yeah,
I think Sinica, we have a small community. It's a small, but the goal with now with PharmaLedger is, and with the use cases, is to create a bigger and bigger community, to make it bigger. At the moment, also in PharmaLedger, we have other startup companies there. For
they
example,
already are using OpenDSU for other research projects and for
exactly.
other. So yeah.
So we are creating a community. It's always, the start is always difficult. You have to overcome that. But I guess we have already a good number of people, still small, but this is one of also the goals, to create a community to ensure stability and for the future.
Super, thank you. I know the plans are still being formulated, but do we have an idea of PLA's business model? Can we say something about that, Marco?
So be very clear, PLA, PharmaLedger Association, the successor of PharmaLedger Project, is a not-for-profit organization. So the main goal is we don't want to make benefit or profit. It's very important, because we are basically helping the industry to build this infrastructure. But still, we try then also to make sure that the different use cases, or we call them now products, that the different products under the PLA, for example, the EPI, or electronic product information, or finished good traceability, and other projects, that they have funding. There are two ways for funding that. That's just under discussion. One is that you pay a membership fee for the PharmaLedger Association, and certain money is used to make sure that the PharmaLedger Association can exist. The branding, the qualification of the software, the QMS system, and these kind of things. And some part of the money will go into a lab, an innovation lab, to make sure that we also look into the future, making experiments around tokens and DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. And another part of money, but that has to be looked, will be then also in going to the different use cases or products. The products like EPI, they also can bring their own funding and driving the project. So we are here very flexible, and we don't want to stay in the different way how the products can be funded. So we are here flexible. For the PLA itself, the membership fees of the participants is the foundation or the funding part of it. But again, we are a not-for-profit organization. Our goal is not to make money and something like that. That's not the goal.
Super, thank you, Marco. At this stage, we're hoping that the next webinar will focus on the PLA in a little more detail. So look out for that next webinar. I think that's our last question. So I'd like to sort of thank Marco and Sinica for their excellent presentations, and for the production team who's brought us this webinar today. And thank you to the audience for your participation and your questions. Okay, the next question, and I think we'll make this our last question because we're nearly out of time now. The question is, how do I watch this webinar again later? If you want to watch it again later at your leisure, then you can do that via the PharmaLedger YouTube channel. We'll be placing the recording of this event onto our YouTube channel so that you can watch it as many times as you like at your own convenience. There is also actually a second live event for this webinar, which is happening on the 22nd of June. So if you want to actually join and participate again live, then you can do that as well. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for all of your questions. Thank you to Marco and Sinica for your presentation today, and to the production team for helping us deliver the webinar. Thank you to the audience for your participation and your excellent questions. As I've said, the recording of this event will be on the YouTube channel shortly, and you can go to the PharmaLedger website and subscribe to the newsletter so that you can get advanced invites to future webinars, and also to receive the PharmaLedger newsletter to keep you abreast of everything that the project is doing. Before you go, we'd really like it if you could fill in the end of webinar survey that you will see in Slido. It's very helpful to have that feedback that we incorporate into future webinars. But until then, until the next webinar, thank you very much for your attendance, and goodbye.